Just get the morning away laughing. I have something to sit on, something to put my feet on. That's good. Thank you. Incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas appear. We pay homage, offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. So today I would like to introduce to you Bhikkhuni Sada. So she received her Upasampada, her higher ordination on Friday, right? Yeah. On Friday. So she looks no different from the outside, you know. But it speaks of her commitment to awakening to total unbinding, and it's my pleasure to have met you, sister, to see your determination, and I have to say that over the past year, and Sada started, was it 2011 or 13? 2011. I gave her a temporary ordination. It was for 10 days, but then she stayed in a row for 30 days. And then she decided, I'm not coming out, you know, and I thought she was the first bhikkhuni, but she's actually the second. There is another one. She's not in Cambodia right now, but she will be going to Cambodia, and so that will be the second bhikkhuni. So the bhikkhuni line it never was in Cambodia. So it's being established in Cambodia now, 2,500 years after the death of the Buddha. And it's wonderful to be participating in that fruition of the great aspiration of women. So I want to say to you to never despise small beginnings. You never know what just your little contribution is to the bringing about big changes in the world. Just think about it, all of these years, if women had a spiritual question, or if they had even a question where they needed the advice, of a wise spiritual woman, there was not a format for that in the country. But now there is, and women are so unused to it, that they think, well, like, why do women want to be like men? That's the monk's domain. That's the male's domain. They can't even envision themselves, having a capacity for spiritual attainment, or even respecting themselves enough to know that they could also make accomplishment in this world as human beings. And so this is a great, we're witnessing something very great, although it doesn't look like it's anything, and it doesn't feel like it's anything. And that's how it should be. We just have to know something is something, you know. And so that's segs into our Dharma talk for today, because I want to talk about cultivation, liberation, and accomplishment. We don't hear that much talk about accomplishment these days, not in Buddhist circles. I mean, I don't even think I've ever heard the word except for when exhorted by a Buddha master, because accomplishment is always like, don't be attached to the outcome. Then why do it? You know, you don't have to be attached, but you certainly have to have an end goal in mind. If you don't know where you're going, how will you know when you get there? And so we like just roll around in these practices, you know, doing practices. And we don't even have a basis for testing ourselves to know our true mind, or to know exactly where we are in the process, because we don't have a sense of the map of the territory. You know, we're just hearing a little Dharma talks here and there and stringing them together, but mostly not stringing them together. So they just become little pockets of topical, you know, topical information that we can like chit chat with each other about and things like that, instead of it becoming a path for the way leading up. And so I'd like for us to consider today that there is somewhere to go and there is something to do to bring forth a bumper crop, a harvest, something that provides a nutriment and that we can use as a basis for becoming holy beings. And so listening to Dharma is extremely important. Unfortunately, you know, when the Buddhism came to America, it came on the basis of, you know, we have such crazy minds, and to create a artificial container where we could get still and kind of still the mind is what was needed. And it stayed with a psychological trajectory, and it became something like that. So that meditation became supreme, and learning the Dharma is like almost non-existent. It's you know, like it's like something extra over there on the fringe. So it's more about what I can do with my mind, but the mind that creates trouble cannot be the same mind that uproots trouble. It has to be something else has to germinate in it to break down that which is unsuitable, and to create a breeding ground for the virtuous, and for that which is virtuous, that which is good, and that which is wise to come forth. And so listening to the Dharma then is extremely important. And a lot of people get annoyed. You don't see Dharma teaching, or you will, but you don't see Dharma, generally you don't see Dharma teaching retreats. You know, we have meditation retreats without a basis of Dharma, you know, or a sufficient basis of Dharma to make much progress. And that's why people can go to retreats for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and there's hardly been any change, because it's not being nurtured and fed by right views. And so first there takes some establishment or some ground to work with. If one is going to plant and produce a bumper crop, you can just take a piece of land. It can be stony land, it doesn't matter. It can be clayey land, you know, but just having a piece of land. But then you have to do something with that land. You may have to fertilize the soil. You may have to have one of those rakey things that pulls, you know, sorts the pebbles out, or pulls the pebbles out of the soil. But you can take a bad piece of land and you can work with that land until you make it able to produce something. Then you drop in the seeds, and then you have to give it the right amount of everything else it needs. And I'm not a farmer, so I can't tell you, but I know that if the soil is not properly prepared, then whatever grows in it is going to be mediocre or even not necessarily edible. But if we do the right things in getting that soil ready, you know, and then after it's ready and it is seeded, if we counting on the great fortune of the right amount of sun, the right amount of water, the, you know, all the necessary ingredients to produce the best crop, then that would be a farmer's goal. So what is your goal for yourself in producing the best qualities, the highest qualities that we can enter into as human beings? Let's just start at being human beings, you know. But when we talk about this Dharma, it's not about becoming better human beings, although that's a part of it. We will become better human beings, but it's about a complete change in lineage from the realm of the ordinary human mind into the lineage of the Buddhas. So we're not really trying to be more happy, you know, not really, not more peaceful. That's a byproduct of moving towards the goal, is what I'm saying. And so we will cut ourselves off from what's available to us. We will cut ourselves off for the delight and the joy and the bliss that's actually there on the path if we don't know what the path is. You know, and we just start reframing, recontextualizing, bringing down the bar to something that's just a little bit beyond our vision. And so it's like wanting to run in the wild and can't go any further than this door. So we never even get out of the building. We never even get out of the human state, and we never change lineages. So I'm not trying to be a good meditator. I'm not trying all those kinds of things, you know. I'm aiming for the goal of being transformed by the renewing of my mind to become a holy being and thereby enter into the lineage of the Buddhas and offer the wheel of samsara. We have to know where we're going. Otherwise, how will we know when we get there? Sometimes we'll think because we've read something, you know, that we are there because we can find ourselves in these little places. How could we not find ourselves many times as we've been around the rounds of samsara? You know, I used to wonder like what this deja vu thing is about, and I still can't tell you what it's about. But there's all the time I'm noticing like, it's almost like in the back of your mind, been there, done that. You know, this is it's just a different color dress today. You know, and so he said, so we should ponder these things deeply. And if we will, rather than relying on our egoic explanations of things, we can come to know something. If you think about the ego actually, that which we identify, you know, as sort of like as self and me and mine, that's got really, it couldn't possibly be oneself because, how can I explain this? One, I can explain, it's more like memory. If I remember who I am, what I like, what I don't like, who is it that's remembering that? So it's the memory that is there. And if we could think of the ego as nothing more than the memory of things, then we would be moving more towards putting thoughts of an ego or of a self-identity into a proper place. That's just a memory of something that I like. Who's the I that likes that? Who is the I that wants things done that way? Who is the I that identifies with this family, this clan, this job, this title, this, what, you know, it's just the memory of something. But there is something else there that is making that identification. And so if we think then that's more like the ego would be like the Kool-Aid in the glass that colors the water, and the true self is just the clear water. So if you had some renews it, you could put renews it in and it would neutralize the red dye, and then the liquid in the water, the water actually would return to its crystal clear appearance. So we're not thinking in terms of no, we're not thinking in terms of no self as if there is nothing there. One time the Buddha called one of his disciples in and he said, is it true that you said this is what I teach, that there is no self and blah, blah, blah? I said, yeah, that's what you teach. He said, when did I ever teach that? But he did actually teach that. But he taught it in different ways, from different perspectives, different shadings, and different inferences, so that you could get a sort of an idea of what something is not, as opposed to actually what it is. He said you won't be able to apprehend what it is until you get rid of all your ideas of that you currently have of what it is. And so he keeps saying, it's not this, it's not that, it's not the other, it's not. So thinking of no self in that sense, I mean, like if I don't really exist, then who are you listening to right now? And if you don't really exist, who am I talking to right now? So it's not a mistaken appearance. The appearance is actually there, but it's a mistaken idea of what the appearance is. And so it's going to be hard to convince the mind that there is no you, and that there is no the other, because everything in our understanding defies that. But when one understands that it's a mistaken appearance, the way that we organize and put together and hold it and concretize and make it something that's really a fabrication of the appearance being a fabrication of the mind, then we leave some space where we can maneuver or get a different picture. Otherwise, we'd have nihilism. If it's nothing, if everything is nothing, then that's nihilism. He said, I don't teach that. So he talks about this middle way, and I think Bhante mentioned it briefly in his retreat this weekend. And he talked about this middle way Dharma, but a middle way Dharma is a middle way Dharma. A Dharma is something that we put into practice. It's not like pages that we read in a book or on a piece of paper. That's not the Dharma. Those are written words about the Dharma. But the Dharma itself, is something entirely different. And so when we are thinking now in terms of Dharma as we go forth into the future, because we're growing, right? And so in the beginning, you might think the Dharma is like this teaching that's written in this book that tells us how to sit, how to stand, how to come, how to go for the highest benefit. You might think that that's Dharma, but a Dharma is something that is walked out, something that's practiced, something that is perfected until it actually becomes a part of you, and you're like the living Dharma. And so you could think of listening to Dharma almost as that it's possible for you to hear true Dharma because of the merit that you have accumulated, over time, so a ripening now. I mean, if you get the wrong instructions for how to bake a cake, you may not come up with a cake. Like one time I was like, oh, I know how to make a cake. I mean, what does it take? You throw this in, this in, this in, and you have a cake. But I did something wrong because the cake cooked for 2 hours and it never became a cake. It stayed a pudding the whole time. And so I just changed it to a pudding and put it in a bowl, and we ate it as pudding. And that's okay, but pudding is not cake, It might have the same kind of sweetness, it gives you the same satisfaction, but pudding was not the cake. And so don't mistake something for the Dharma and then just settle for that and say, okay, well, this is good enough. or to do it to save face, like I had intended of putting all along, but establish within yourself, or see within yourself the true goal of the end of suffering. And if you could imagine, I know I keep coming back to it again and again about the clear glass of water, that which can reflect, can pierce, penetrate, and see through everything clearly. And then we think of all of our memory data that says I am wife, I am husband, I am teacher, I am student, I am professional, I am lawyer, I am, even down to things that have happened to you. I have been loved, I am loved, I am hated, I have been abused, I have been cheated, all of these things that if we hold them as self, then is the cause for our defeat and the cause for us never coming to accomplishment. There's nothing else you would do all your life striving, and say, oh, but I'm not I don't care about the outcome. We even we'll say, okay, so it's not whether you win or lose, but how you play the game. It's both of those, okay? It's playing the game and playing to win, and we don't have to be apologetic for that. Actually, it helps us to stabilize our intent, and it helps us to hold fast in the face of adversity. I'm talking about holding fast in the face of adversities. I'm hoping that we're open up fully, by the beginning of the year. I read that that we peaked in terms of COVID here in Hendersonville. I think it said around September the 16th, and it's been steadily declining. And I hope that that's so. But when we start up again, we're not going around in a circle over things we've already talked about for 5 years, for 10 years. We're going to be moving towards, we're going to be on a trajectory. So that means that some won't come with us, because some just like 45-minute Dharma talk a week. And it'll take many, many, many lifetimes for us to accomplish our goal there. So we're accelerating. So you just have to keep up. And to keep up requires that we do our practice 24/7, not 45 minutes a week. It requires that we're willing to sit and listen to something that's longer than 45 minutes. It may not be on the Sunday, but it means if there's, where our focus and attention is going to be on those. For instance, if we just talk about cultivation and what that is, I can't give it to you in 45 minutes. We understand that about everything else except Dharma. Dharma's like, give me the quick version, but everything else, we'll go to school for years and years to perfect something, to be able to do something, to have a particular occupation, or to serve the world in a certain type of way, or because we just want the knowledge for ourselves and we can afford to pay for it whether we use it or not. But when it comes to Dharma, like it's just a little chunk, a little chunk. And yet there are, and then we want the best teachers, the ones who give their whole life to this, so that they can like really get it right, really be available for your 45 minutes a week. And so what I'm saying is that as we're going forth, now there are going to be some that can't get into some of the classes that we're going to offer because they don't have the basis. Don't have the basis, you can't get there. And this is not to prevent anybody from growing or for going deeper into the studies. It's just that if you get dropped in the deep end of the water, you got to be able to swim. So I don't want to drown anybody. I don't want to leave anybody behind. But I'm saying you got to be, if you want to go out into the deep end, you have to be able to stroke. And there will always be some spaces for those who, you know, don't want to go any further, don't want to go any deeper, don't want to be in bed, who are satisfied with where they are. That's not throwing shade on anyone at all. It's just attending to those who want to go further, who want to go deeper, and who are willing to see and understand the great benefit in the disciplines we undertake at the higher end. How would you feel if you were trying to master some skill? And Don, can I use you as an example? Like this, Don is an airplane pilot, a commercial airplane pilot. I don't want to be on a commercial airplane by somebody who just learned how to fly those deputy dog planes. What you call them, little those prop planes. I don't want a prop plane pilot. I want a commercial one who learn how to fly the big planes, you know, if I have to get on. And so, and by the same token, one who has gone through all of that training, you know, incrementally, you know. I remember when I was taking flying lessons, I didn't want to take them, you know, but my husband was taking them. And then he had to do like his solo flight. And then, you know, I started thinking, I said, now, if he gets his license and he's going to want me to go somewhere with him, he's the only one who knows how to fly, and we're way up there in the sky, what happens if he has a heart attack or anything? I need to be able to kick that door open, kick him out, and take hold of the controls and bring that puppy down. And so I maybe I need to take lessons too. So I started taking lessons. Of course, I didn't really like it. I didn't want to do it. Now I just rather pay to go somewhere or stay home if I can't afford it. That was just, I just didn't want to. But anyway, I was learning, and I was doing good. I might have my things wrong now because it's been a long time. But, you know, we had to learn about, you know, like yaw, keep the plane steady from going this way, keep it steady from going this way, keep it steady from going this way. You know, and all these gauges, and I'm looking like, I check, and everything looks good, right? And then my instructor who was sitting in the, boy, they brave, sitting in the passenger, you know, see, he leaned over and said, you know, you have to watch out for airplanes too. And that's when I just lost it, because I'm like just going straight into the wild blue yonder and looking, mostly just looking at my gauges so that he would be impressed at how good I could keep everything. He said, you know, you got to look for planes too. I tried to get out the door. I panicked. I had a panic attack, and I was trying to open the door. Good thing I was strapped in, you know. And then he like switching. He took over the control. I never took another lesson. You know, I was getting near. Well, no, not near the end, but I was a good ways into it, you know. And sometimes we're like that in our practice, because it's just practice, you know. But what we should know is that there is a liberation phase where the fetters are cut, and there's an accomplishment phase where one can carry out the carry out the exploits of a holy being. And not because we're like trying to be that, but just because we have the qualities, because we have the understanding. There's some people who are trying to tell me that they are awakened and can't even make the, you know, like common sense decisions about things. Can't even have enough clarity for handling ordinary. And I don't mean like big challenges. I mean like just common sense things. So you would have to know that if you don't have that much wisdom, it's a good chance you're not awakened. And so there's a great benefit and purpose in listening to correct Dharma, listening to true Dharma. So sometimes decades of practice may not even be worth the benefit of one Dharma. And the reason is that we often engage in futile practices, you know, because we may be following a procedure or a formula or a method, right? And we may be getting the method down, but we're not cracking through our own delusion and our own illusory appearances. We've fashioned the world and we see through the lens of that based on how we put together the data from our senses, what we see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and think. I mean, we got it down. See, hear, taste, touch, smell, think. See, hear, taste, touch, smell, think. Like we can like just rattle it off. But the question is, in the moment by moment, what are we assessing and what wisdom are we accessing? And that's what one needs to know. So we can be great on our meditation cushion, which the Buddha said, I don't call that practice, I call that pleasant abiding here and now. You know, but we engage in mistaken practices all day long because we engage in practices of negative karma all day long through something we thought or something we said or something we did or something that we didn't think that we should have thought or something we didn't say that we should have said or something that we didn't do that we should have done. And so we rack our brains trying to exert ourselves in these outward typical ways that someone has said that demonstrates that we are good practitioners because we can sit seated without moving. You know, we can sit with the pain of and the need of sitting, just don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move. We have found that we can do that, or we can. I kid sister all the time about her hands are like they're just so beautifully held, and she goes into this state that she holds that, you know, and it just looks so beautiful and it looks so wonderful. But at the same time, something can be going on in our mind that's not beautiful and wonderful at all. But yet we look so beautiful and we look so wonderful. You know? And so the purpose of hearing correct Dharma is because it points us to our faults. It points us to what prevents us from being a holy being. It points us to what we're really practicing all day, except the times we carve out for some external practice. Are you with me? Yeah. And so it becomes easier for us on the path when we're able to recognize, you know, our three karmas. When we're able to recognize them, then we can recognize them and take care of it immediately. You know, and when I say take care of it immediately, and this is where the Sangha comes together, and that we're also good for each other. Because on one hand, I don't have time to focus on what you're doing and what you're not doing. My job is to focus on what I'm doing and make sure that that's in accord, in a line, you know, with right views. And that's your job too. But we're mostly looking at what others are doing or not doing. And we build our whole sense of our up close and personal world around what we see or don't see happening external to us, rather than the constant peering inward. And then, of course, nobody lives up to our expectations. I mean, we don't even live up to our own, but nobody knows that. And so we find a dissatisfaction because we can't make anybody fill up the holes in our life. You know, so if I can't make myself happy, then I think like it's your job to make me happy. And like if I'm not happy, then you're not doing a good job. You know, but it helps us to turn inward to see where we're stepping into the holes and twisting our own ankle. You know, it's not anyone else doing that we're doing it ourselves. And he speaks of how to shift the mind so that you think in different ways when you see something. You know, yesterday was a real challenge for me Well, actually, yeah, it was. It was a real challenge for me because in 3 weeks now we've had 3 burglaries at the store. So there were the two, but then yesterday, I had to call the police again because what I noticed is because the glass is broken and we're waiting for the glass doors to be replaced. And there's been so many break-ins, they can't even keep up. Some places we call couldn't even get an appointment for them to come out and give whoever did that for me. I think was, couldn't even come out to give us an estimate, for over a week because they can't even keep up with the break-ins. And so it's not directed just towards me, of course, 3 times in our complex, none for not for the other stores. They did break into the honey baked ham place, but they caught them. So we think it's like a ring of them, but they caught them because I guess they were out selling the hams or something, but it causes damage. It causes downtime. We were closed for a week. It brings hardship on the employees. It's a lot of things. But yesterday, I noticed because we were there the day before yesterday and we didn't see that, but we had posted a note because we were going to open in a couple of days, but it takes more than a couple of days to buy a new cash register. You can't even under order and then it to be shipped. So we have no way because they stole cash registers too. And we have it on film, but they all masked up, so we still don't know who they are. And they were trying to get the safe. So I said, okay, next time they're gonna come with some other tools because they spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to get the safe, and for that $50 that's in the safe, and so the second time they got one registered and we thought, okay, well, that's a smash and grab and we're done. They come back the next week and there's the other registered. And so now we have no register. So we can't open the store even though we're ready, but we put a sign because people just keep coming every day and we said, sorry, we'll be open on Friday. Okay, so now in the mind of the thief, Friday means that now they'll have registers again. And I'm saying we're gonna have a big sale, everybody come out. So then they're thinking, okay, so then they're gonna have extra cash for Friday, So they come Thursday night planning, for us to be all set up for Friday. But actually the register didn't come in time, so we still weren't open. But now here we are open, and I was thinking, okay, so now I'm gonna have to unhook all of this, bolt the cash register down, because I'm gonna have to take the register home every day, and then reboot it. And I'm thinking like, and then I'm just looking out the door. I'm so happy to see the customers coming in, not to buy something, but because they love coming in there. They love coming in and telling this, where are the nuns? We miss the nuns so much because it's a bright spot in their day, when they get to talk with you or like you're attentive to them. They come and they tell you their stories. Don't they? Something they tell you their life stories. They tell you that so-and-so in their family died yesterday, or they're having such a hard time. And they find a listening ear that, we're not saying just the facts, ma'am. We're just not staying away because we don't want to hear it, but we're there engaging with community. And it's a lovely, lovely thing. And so I'm looking, just gazing out, welcoming people coming. And I noticed this big hole. And I get up and it wasn't there the day before. And it's where, in North Carolina, you're not allowed to have key locks for an exit door. They have to be able, to manually unlock in case of a fire or something like that and get out. So what happens when you have glass doors and you have a manual lock, right? You break the glass. Well, they broke the glass, they just stepped over into the door. But now we have them boarded up while we're waiting for our new glass to come. So they had started chiseling away around the lock so that they could get their fingers in and turn the lock to come in. Now, so what that says to me now is it's not cash registers. Now it's lawnmowers. It's like, other items that they're setting themselves up for, because we still have to go another week before our new glass doors come in. And so I sat there and I felt really, really weary. I really did. And then I was through with that. I mean, you can do whatever you're gonna do. You can stay open, you can stay closed, liquidate, because I'm seriously thinking about that, but you don't have to be in any kind of state about it, is what I'm saying. There is a way to be liberated from suffering over cause and effect, is what I'm saying to you. And I can remember a time that I would have been, well, in the earlier days, I would have came back packing my pistol. I don't do that anymore. But in those days, I'm like, let another one come in, so that's all gone. Then as you start getting older, you start getting fearful for your life. Well, maybe when you're young too, I don't know. I wasn't when I was young, but you start getting fearful, about things. It's natural as we become more feeble, unless we're fortified by something that's greater than what we can find in the world. So that wasn't there. It was just, is this the best use of my time? And it came to that. And so, sometimes we have to do things out of necessity. I mean, rent doesn't get paid, unless they get greenbacks. And so, it does help sustain us, allow us to be here for more than a year and a half now, without having Sangha, without having retreats, without having anything. So sometimes, we do the things that we have to do, not necessarily the things that we want to do, but if we see all of it as our spiritual work, then it doesn't matter whether we're sweeping the sidewalk, whether we're hoeing the yard, whether we're training in Dharma methods, whether we're giving a Dharma talk, or whether we're working in McDonald's to pay for the utility. It doesn't matter. It's all the same thing, And so I was like pondering and just looking at everything. That's like, and as long as it felt personal, there was pain. And I'm just like not really one that's in for a lot of pain. I'm not a masochist. And so I stepped out of that, but you got to be able to have a mind that if it falls into that, of course, we're not awakened, so sometimes we can fall into that space, but if you fall there, you got to be able to dig your way out. You got to be able to step out of that yourself. Other people can't do it for you. It's just not possible, But when one finds that one has the capacity to step out of something, step out of some mental state, or to see where one is falling into a mental state, and that could be because of the company you keep. If everybody around you is afraid, then you'll be afraid. If everybody around you, is I tell you, every customer that came in the store yesterday, because where we are, they were saying, what you need to do is get yourself a 9mm. I mean, I had some customers who offered, bless their hearts, and they're about 900 years old, but who offered, they were all old. They offered to come, I can sleep in here for you, sister. Yeah. Do you remember when we first opened, just back in April? Like, they were like, who are these people? Well, they're wearing them funny clothes. Like, who's in charge for real around here? It was like that. But now they're offering to come sleep on a cot. He said, I could sleep right behind there. And they wouldn't even know we're here. I bring my own piece. You ain't got to have one. And and they were serious. One lady came back and said, my husband was serious, right? He will come and he will help protect you, because we love this store so much. But it touched my heart. It doesn't mean I'm taking anybody up on anything. And it doesn't mean that we're going to stay open, although I'd like to through the end of the year, just because some things that we're trying to do and that revenue on our books establishes us in a certain way that we can build and go forward. But I'm just saying these are all the things that just come with being in samsara. You don't want this kind of life, then do something different that you don't wind up here again or in a more woeful state. There are better states, there are better realms, and it doesn't, and things don't just end when this body falls away, is what I'm saying. It's still in the glass. Okay. So let's see. Oh, good time. Mhm. So sometimes we can practice for like 10 years and we would never discover our shortcomings because we're not really looking there. We've taken this as a topical study, something that we can like have discussions around what we think about it, instead of following a process by which we renew the mind by stepping into the teaching. But that requires the ego to not be in control, the memory to not be in control. And that's why there's such a strong fight against new things, against putting something different up against what we already know. It's why we get so abusive in our rejection of it, even. No. It's why we become angry when we're asked to try something out different, or go a little further. Oh, doesn't take all of that. Or here's another way to look at something. Well, I know this way, and this is the way that I trust. And we become defensive of it. We become protective of our teachers and our way and our lineage, which wasn't a lineage, until somebody became attached to their teachers and established the lineage. And then they go around and talk about my teacher, my teacher, my teacher. Our lineage, our lineage, our lineage. And so we start attaching to the wrong things and we can't go further. So first comes a little listening to Dharma, and then really contemplating that Dharma, that you're getting right now, that's opening you up to something additional, and really getting what that is. And in the beginning, as soon as we start hearing something, we start comparing it to what we already know. So we only half listening because the first little line starts off, yeah, but it says this. That part that I know says this. But here's another part that it also says that you don't know. It says this too. So now you have to add what you do know it says, what you didn't know it says, and see what kind of a picture you get now. But we can't, it's difficult for us to get that because immediately we start comparing to what we already know. That's not the first step. The first step is to listen. The second step is to ponder it. The third step, we haven't got to comparing yet, have we? The third step is to put it into practice, to see what fruit it needs, to determine whether it's good. And then the fourth step is to reconcile with what you want. Now, those are the steps. And if one is willing to do that, one can grow. If one is not willing to do it, then you'll continue to have what you've always had. Then you just have to ask yourself, is that it? So this bliss, this joy, this more than encouragement, this enthusiasm, this forward motion comes from us being able to do that. to hear and listen. To contemplate what is the meaning of this new thing that I'm hearing. To put it into practice to see if there's any merit. And then to reconcile it with what we already know. So learn Dharma and cultivate. Then when you sit, your meditation will be correct. Because the sitting is simply a pleasant here and now. So even now, if we went into meditation, which I'm not going to do, when he brought them together, to teach the Dharma, to instruct. Then he said, now each one of you go sit at the root of the tree or wherever you go and sit. And he left room for that. Reflecting. And then come back and then hear some more, and then he sent them all. So we have meditation retreat centers, right? But we don't have teaching retreats. We just have like meditation retreats. So we would like to have you can go anywhere for a meditation retreat. Sit with your thoughts, the ones you've always had. And you might get a breakthrough here and there. I would like to have a place where we really learn from the Buddha into our life every day, not just when we come to the retreat center, not just when we come in the dark, but every minute of every day, we are able to examine and see what is right here in front of me, what right here is right in me, what fear is being produced right here, what wrong view is attached to my mental continuum that the fear can rise and overtake. What, that's where the victory is. The victory is in the fruit of our three causes, what we think, what we say, and what we do. That is the life that we live, holy or unholy. That is the life. So we see our faults not for the purpose of flagellation. Oh, I'm so unworthy. I'm so unworthy. That is so full of self. I'm so unworthy. Not from the sense of, oh, I'm doing pretty good. We know that one. And generally when one is like that, it's not because they really feel that. It's because they do feel a little bit insecure. You look at the people who have to appear to be, so wonderful, so cocky, so, but either they're mentally deranged or they're insecure, and they try to prop themselves up. So don't worry when somebody's coming there too bodacious. You just know that that's an insecurity. And so instead of being put off by it, or instead of being intimidated by it, you recognize that's the one who's not feeling like 100%. So she has to do something that emboldens her or creates a safety net, a buffer around him, so that he feels safe, or to make himself feel more adequate, because maybe he seriously is acquainted with its flaws and hasn't figured out how to come out from them. Maybe thinking that there is no way that he can come out. Maybe, and maybe there might not be, because things depend on ripening karma. So sometimes we like just have to go through things. If you really read the story of the Buddha without having rose-colored glasses on, I mean, that was a hard road that he lived, him and his disciples. He was from a family of influence, the warrior clan, a noble, and they had nobles that had huge territories of their family, and they're always fighting. So he's really caught up in a lot of political intrigue. He leaves and I mean, his whole clan actually got wiped out. And it's said that the Buddha wept upon hearing that his whole clan was wiped out. Then he dusted himself off and kept on doing what he had to do. So and that may be true or may not be true. I don't know. Either way, it's still okay because he finished the course, is what I'm saying. And it didn't mean that he just became a robot now and he has no feelings because he has to, no, it's being fully acquainted with grief and sorrow, be able to fully touch it 100%, not to remove ourselves from it. But it's also to have overcome it so that one can still recognize it and one can still be touched by it, but not overcome. And that's a whole different thing, because if we push it aside and become removed from it, become detached in the ways that we understand detachment, which is a lot of what we have going on in the Buddha, in the Buddhist realm today. It's this whole idea of detachment, and part of the problem with our world is that we're already detached. It's just me and mine, and so we're using that as an excuse to not have to be touched by the infirmities of others. Look at how we've been closed for a year and a half, and Don has still come regularly, taking care of the birds. I mean, truly caring for them. Like I'll just be honest with you. I didn't give the hummingbirds a thought. I had so many other things, like on my mind. That's not a reason. That's not an excuse. I just didn't. But here is somebody who does. And here he come regularly. He just drives up, don't say nothing, he's going around taking care of the birds in his car and driving. And I'm saying how much, I noticed and I appreciate it, but he doesn't care whether I noticed or appreciate it. Anyway, did he? No, because he wasn't doing it for me. That's what came up for him, a way that he could care for living beings. You see, so all we have to do is see what we're supposed to be doing. And that's its reward right there, knowing that I'm squarely doing what I can be doing, and doing that for the pure joy and happiness of the other. That's it. That's it. No more reward than that. Buddha did not get kudos for being the Buddha. He did not. And the climate got so politically charged, and then somebody in his clan married off one of their daughters to somebody in another clan to keep them from having a war. But then he actually tricked them and married off one of the servants, not the Buddha, but somebody in his clan, gave the other king a slave girl instead of his daughter. And then when they found out, they came in and they slaughtered them. So there was a lot that went on there. It's not like these are worse times. If I had to choose between then and now, I'd still take now. I really would. So don't have any illusions that just because you do good, that you're going to quickly see the fruit of your goodness. Like if I give you this, you're supposed to give me that. Or if I give you this, you're supposed to give me that. It doesn't work that way. So you have to be prepared for the working out of karma. And I believe the closer you get to it, the more karma gets worked out, because your time starts to get short. So it all just starts piling up, and working itself off. So that's my ticket out of here, and one can then hold the things to come, but you have to have a firm belief in that. If you don't, then you'll be at a loss when calamity comes. Like you'll be at the, why is this happening to me? What I do know is that there's nothing that could happen to me except that the karmic conditions have presented themselves. You know, and so in that way, one can accept. Accept doesn't mean like you do nothing. You just accept this is how it is. What can I do in this moment to make the next moment better? You just try to work with that. But don't worry so much about how did this come upon me? Why did this come upon me? It's just that the next moment is being built right now because the fruit is in the action. That's what I'm saying. The harvest is rising concurrently with the action. So knowing that whatever you're doing right now, if the fruit's not down the road and maybe I'll die before it matures, or maybe I'll do something good right here that'll like make that one not be so bad right there. No, it's not like that. They rise together. And if we know that, we'll be more circumspect upon the initiation of an action, knowing that the corresponding fruit is resident in it. You know, so when something happens to me, I accept there's no way possible that it can happen, except there were some causes and conditions of omission or commission in one of my lives since beginning this time that is allowing the ripening right now. But what can I do right now so that the next ripening is more to my liking? You know, I'm going to try to be looking in that kind of way. So that way I don't have to get mad with you. I'm not mad. I'm not mad with the thieves. I regret that it has really pointed me to how bad the drug condition is right here in Henderson, because you have to really be looking to see it. You even have to know to look to be able to see it. And we hear it here and there, but because what we see is more real to us, then we miss it, or we don't know what to look for. But I can tell you, I see druggies everywhere now. I mean, just in the past few weeks, I see them. I know that I see how many move through the shopping center. I see how the police doesn't come through there all day long. I see when the two cars rendezvous continually. Same cars come this way, exchange, go that way. I see all of these things, because my eyes are now open, and I have great sorrow for the suffering of those families. So I told each one that offered to bring their guns and protect us. I said, he said, well, because that ain't right. And they'll quote me all the scriptures and make it okay to do that, And I'll say, yeah. I said, but a cash register is not worth somebody's life. A few $100s is not worth me taking a life. And that's all I'd say. And they come and say, okay. And so I'm using this as a time to practice. Again, I say, you can say to a person, you don't have to go away mad, but you have to go away. And I might decide, think I'm pretty much decided, that maybe this, I may not be able to keep the store open, only if it doesn't detract, and distract from the work I have to do. And I have to find some other way to do it. Maybe downscale. I mean, you just have to be with causes and conditions. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be afraid of change. So I think that's all I want to say. So I'd like to end with the thought that you cannot become a holy being unless you become a person of pure, undefiled calm in your thoughts, in your speech, and in your actions. And I know I say it all the time, but it is my mantra. And those doings must be in accord with the path of May you be well and happy and peaceful. no harm come to you and no danger. May you always be able to meet in every